Welcome. Welcome, everyone. My name is Mike McMullen. I'm president of the Carroll County Chamber of Commerce. Normally, we'd have our chairman of the board here. He would go through all the script, but Mike Fox, who's our current chairman, is golfing right now in, I think, in Myrtle Beach, so it's nice and warm there. And when you consider the blizzard I heard that's coming over the weekend, have you heard about that we're going to get? No, that's all right. April 1st, I'm just getting ready for it, okay? I think if I'm hoping for snow, maybe it won't snow. That's usually what happens. So, first off, I'd like to thank everybody for being here. I'd like to thank the people at the Portico, very nice place, and also Joe Hanson's for the nice food. And hopefully there'll still be some stuff left after the meeting if you want to grab some on the way out. First order of business, if you have a cell phone, and everybody does, let's turn them on quiet, please. There's nothing more annoying than somebody's phone, usually in a purse, that goes off with some obnoxious ringer. So we're going to try to, and if that happens, whoever's the actual one, you're going to get up here and sing a song, a special song. That's my rule. So double check your phones, okay? So, okay. Oh, we got a phone back there. Is it Kurt? Turn that phone off, Kurt. Have you noticed Kurt in the back? He's sitting with all the ladies. He's a smart man, okay? All right, we have an excellent speaker with us today, and we have an inspiring topic. Joe Mechlinski is author of a New York Times bestseller, Grow Regardless. Have any of you ever seen this book? It's a wonderful book. I've read it. We're going to have some copies that are going to be at the end. If we pull out your business card, you're going to get an autographed copy. That's Joe in the back there. How about a little round of applause for Joe? Joe is CEO and co-founder of EntreQuest, Inc. I believe that's how you pronounce it. Very good. So right now at this time, I'd like to recognize some of the former chairs of our board who are here with us today. So if you'd stand and be acknowledged when I read your name, we have R. Wayne Barnes of Life and Long-Term Care Insurance. Wayne, where are you? There's Wayne. We have Mr. Mike Shank of M&T Bank. He's supposed to be here. Is Mike here? Oh, come on. His name was on the list. Well, Mike, if you're watching this, as it streams live, is this thing being streamed live? CMC. Mike, thanks for being here. You're not here, Mike. No, I'm only kidding. Let's also thank CMC. They're here to film this for us, and it is streaming live right now. I forgot about that. And we also have Dave Bollinger. Dave is here, isn't he? There he is, Dave Bollinger, Barnes Bollinger Insurance Services. And we have Christine Walters, independent consultant, 5L Company. Did I miss anybody? Did anybody sneak in? Any past chairs of the board? Are there any elected officials? I don't think so here, right? All right, very good. Well, meetings like this wouldn't happen without the people who helped to sponsor them. And we're really happy that we have some extremely faithful members who sponsor our meetings. And right now you're going to hear from both of them. The first one you're going to hear from is Fusion Dental. And our sponsor's message will be delivered by Dr. Cheryl Degenhart. So, Cheryl, if you'd like to come up, how about a round of applause for her? Don't trip.
Thank you. That'd be bad.
That would not be good.
Thank you. Hi, how is everybody today? It's finally looking like it's getting a little warmer outside. So I have a little message to read. I am not a public speaker. I haven't spoken to anyone older than a kindergartner in years. So I'm just going to read this and try not to stumble over too much. So I'm Dr. Cheryl Degenhart. I'm a general dentist, and I'm here representing Fusion Dental. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about our office and our background. We're located in Eldersburg and have been providing dental care in the community there for over 25 years. I joined the practice in 1998. At that time, it was called Family Dental Associates. A few years later, we became part of a group of dental offices with various locations around Maryland, and our name changed to Greater Maryland Dental Partners. In February of 2011, we then became known as Fusion Dental because we joined with some offices in Virginia and the DC area. So our location in Eldersburg has a lot to offer our patients. Our office is housed in a lovely new spacious facility with state-of-the-art dental equipment, including digital x-rays and computerized record keeping. We are available to treat patients every day, Monday through Friday, from 8 a.m. till 5 p.m., and we have some extended hours from 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. We're also open Saturdays, twice a month, from 8 a.m. until 2 p.m. When the office is closed, there's always a dentist available for emergencies. Fusion Dental is a specialty, multi-specialty dental practice. We have 3 general dentists, a children's dentist, an orthodontist, an oral surgeon, a root canal specialist, and a gum specialist, all on our staff in Eldersburg. That means we can provide our patients with all types of dentistry in one convenient location. Our dentists are very friendly, approachable, kind, caring, and capable. Together with our 3 wonderful hygienists and 7 fabulous assistants, we make an excellent team. At Fusion Dental, we accept most PPO insurances, and our knowledgeable and helpful front desk staff do a great job of helping patients understand insurance questions. We also participate in a program called Dental Care Advantage, and there's some pamphlets on the table over there by Phyllis if anybody has more questions about that. They offer 15% discounts on all dental services, as well as discounts on prescriptions and some vision, chiropractic, and hearing services for patients who don't have insurance. Along with providing dental services to our regular patients, Fusion Dental reaches out to help people in our community. Last Thursday, we held a Give Kids a Smile Day where we provided free dental x-rays, exams, cleanings, and fillings for local children with no dental insurance. While the children were waiting to be seen by the hygienists and dentists, they were entertained by members of the office staff who treated them to face painting and storytelling. Everyone at Fusion had a good time. We helped out and enjoyed ourselves and are planning to do another Give Kids a Smile Day in the future. We are also going to be at the Westminster Flower and Jazz Festival on Saturday, May 10th, with some dentists available to perform free oral cancer exams. And Fusion Dental has a very nice website. It's listed on the bags that you each have at your table. And you should check out our website, because I can't answer all the questions you have now and give you much information. And then come visit us in person. We'd love to see you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cheryl. It sounds like a great thing you've got for kids. Probably I wouldn't need to take like an actual pill to calm myself down when I go in. If it was like that when I was a kid, you're going with, be like, the kid doesn't need Novocaine, just drill away. It's like, oh, it's a little bit different nowadays. So thank you. And our second sponsor's message we're going to hear is the Carroll Business Path, and we have Mr. John Wheatman, who's the navigator of the Carroll Business Path. So John, come on up.
Thank you, Mike. When Mike spoke to me a while ago about the sponsorship opportunity today, I did what I always do, and that is I took a look at the speaker's credentials. Not that I don't trust the chamber to have excellent speakers, they always do, but I do always, no, I'm being sincere, but I do look for a way to see, okay, well, what is the speaker's message and how does it tie into what we do, because it's a sponsorship opportunity. And certainly at the Carroll Business Path, in dealing with small business and entrepreneurship, we often make the distinction between sort of the drumbeat of the overall economy, the macroeconomics, the 2.5% growth rate we see, and some of the anemia out there, and contrast that with individual market potential and individual business potential, which is much more microeconomic. And it's really an important distinction to make, because even in a broad economy where things aren't growing at the rate at which we would like, for each individual business and each individual entrepreneur, they are not limited by those percentages. There's really a huge amount of potential out there if done properly. And when I looked up Mr. Mechlinski's book and program and website, and I thought, grow regardless. I just really love the word regardless. And it's a really nice tie-in for what we do in the Carroll Business Path. So it's a nice sponsorship opportunity for us. Carroll Business Path has been up and running really now for 2 years. Many days it doesn't seem like it, but in those 2 years we've individually counseled over 425 individuals, some of which were just at the idea stage. We've heard some really good ideas, and as I'll admit, some really bad ideas. But every day is different, and that's fun. And we've met with a lot of existing small businesses and tried to help them expand and grow, and in this economy grow regardless. So a nice tie-in there. On the tables, and the only program I'm going to mention specifically, is we have a relatively new program, sort of a bolt-on to the Carroll Business Path, and it's called Know Before You Go. And the Reader's Digest version is this, is that we found that large businesses that come into the county, and many of them are doing that now. They've got staff, they've got access to lawyers and architects and engineers, and when they're occupying a new commercial space or building a commercial space, they know how to do it. They have the expertise and the resources. If they're delayed by 30 or 60 days by weather or any combination of factors, they're usually bankrolled to handle that as part of their plan. But for an entrepreneur, a new small business, the only time they will probably ever interact with the permitting and regulatory process involved in occupying a commercial space, the only time they'll do that is probably the only time they'll do it their entire lives. And they don't necessarily have the same amount of resources. So look at it this way. If somebody's going to open a new business and they put in, or they need to put in 36-inch high counters, that's not a big deal. But it's kind of a big deal to put in 38-inch high counters and have to rip them out and put 36-inch high counters in. So the purpose behind Know Before It's Go is really a simple one, is that any entrepreneur, small business person looking to occupy a commercial space, we invite you into our offices for a very specific one-on-one session. We usually bring down Jason Green, head of our permits department. You sit down with me. We look at the exact space that you're considering, either pre-lease, post-lease, pre-construction, whatever it may be, and go through the things that you need to consider. The idea is that if you do it the right way the first time, you know what the process is. The process is not a bad process, but if you don't know it, it can be daunting. Things go a lot more smoothly. So I encourage everybody here as chamber members to talk up the program, let people know that it's there. If we can get with somebody before they get into the space, so we can help make sure it goes a lot more smoothly and help that their business opening is a success and that it's a more sustainable business. Great. Thank you very much.
Okay, at this time we're going to move into the presentation, and I'd like to ask Ms. Christine Walters come up because she's the one who had actually recommended Joe to come and speak. I'm going to allow her to introduce him. How about a round of applause for Christine?
Thank you and good afternoon. First, I want to tell you just a little bit about what I knew about Joe before I walked in the room today, and then a little bit about what I've learned since I've been here. Joe and I first met maybe 13 years ago through the Maryland Chamber of Commerce. I was a burgeoning entrepreneur. Joe had already established EntreQuest. So we're talking about, what we want to do, what our vision is, how we do what we do. And I still remember this day, I was so struck because Joe got the metrics and the business drivers even then. And said to me, and I don't know if it's still in place today, but he said, all these companies, everybody does sales training, right? Vendors are always after you, we'll come in and do training for your company. Train, train, train. Fabulous, that's great. What's your ROI on that and how do you measure it? And Joe said to me, well, I'll tell you how I carve myself out and set myself apart, is I provide that ROI for my clients. And if they engage me to provide sales training, I will guarantee to them that they will see a measurable increase in their sales revenue. That's the ROI that I give to my clients. It was like, bam, this guy gets it. And maybe I ought to think about doing the same thing. So we've stayed in touch ever since, and it's just so cool, Joe, to watch your career. And I'm a New York Times best-selling author. So let me also share with you a little bit about what I've read about Joe today. Recognized as a nationwide authority on U.S. small business growth, Joe is a popular speaker and New York Times best-selling author. His debut book, Grow Regardless, debuted number 4 in the advice, how-to, and miscellaneous category of the New York Times. Reviewed number 1 on BarnesandNoble.com and was named number 5 in the business category on Amazon.com. Joe, it is awesome. Joe is a long-standing business columnist for the partner channel magazine, The Daily Record, and Smart CEO, and shares tips and tricks for improving the employee experience as one of 26 world-renowned authors featured on the Employee Happiness blog. As the award-winning CEO and co-founder of EntreQuest, Inc., a Baltimore consulting firm that has helped hundreds of companies prosper through some of the worst economic times in history, Joe's mission is to give voice to America's small to medium-sized business leaders by teaching them how to grow their organizations regardless of their size, their industry, or the economy. The BBJ, Baltimore Business Journal, named EntreQuest one of its best places to work in 2011, 2012, and 2013. Also in 2013, the BBJ tapped Joe for its top 40 under 40 list, if you're familiar with that. But wait, we're not finished yet. The Daily Record also named Joe as one of Maryland's most admired CEOs. How cool is that? So, a little bit more on a personal side, Joe is a voracious reader with an uncanny ability to predict the next best-selling book, having read more than 400 volumes on business, sales, self-improvement, marketing, and history. Joe also survived a trek up Mount Kilimanjaro, his first and also his last marathon in Baltimore. And while he would like to say he is an accomplished golfer in his spare time, his 32 handicap unfortunately does not qualify him for the PGA Tour. Please join me in welcoming Joe.
For the video?
Yeah,
Okay.
they kind of need you to get your voice.
All right. So we'll try to do this. Will it? Can I take it with me? You think? A little bit? No? All right.
You got to adapt.
Anyone who knows me, this is going to be incredibly difficult to stay in one place for longer than 10 minutes. All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. It is awesome to be back in Carroll County twice in the last 90 days. I was here for the Pink Fling event. I think it was in February, so it was actually in the exact same room, so it was easy to find. And Carroll County kind of holds a place near and dear to my heart. It was McDaniel, what now is McDaniel, what then was Western Maryland, was my first pick to go to college. I love Coach Keating and everything he was about, and at the very last second I was swooped away by another school. So every time I come up here, I always go, what if I had gone to school up here? So in any event, well, I'm really excited. Christina did a great job, and Mike, it's been great getting to know you over the last couple weeks. This kind of area, this crowd, this entire vibe seems exactly what I was put on the planet for, which is to talk to small businesses. I typically start my talks, and I know there's someone here who was at the Pink Fling event, by just a really simple headline, which is small business saved my life. And I don't say that lightly. I grew up in an area in Baltimore. You're familiar with Baltimore, so I don't have to give you the long and gory details, but I went to the worst high school in the state of Maryland. We had a 23% graduation rate. We started with 965 freshmen. We graduated 225 seniors 4 years later. 5 of us went to college right after school, 1 of us to a 4-year school. So I went to the kind of high school that they would make you bring like a backpack that you could see through. You got metal detectors as you walked in. It was, in essence, what we all watched and come to know as The Wire. And what I can tell you is that the area that I grew up in wasn't always like that. I grew up in an area where most of the people that worked at either GM, Bethlehem Steel, these massively big companies that were really vested in the community. But we all know how that ended, which was in the 80s and the 90s, like other cities across the country. You know, manufacturing went overseas, things became a little bit more competitive, and long story short, a lot of these communities lost what was the real lifeblood that kept them going, which were jobs. And so when you think about what's happened to the economy over the last 4 or 5 years, I remember when Christine and I first met, I felt this passionate about small business, but let's be honest, 2002, 2003, 2004, 5, 6, and 7, things were going so well, people were like, grow regardless? Like, if you're not growing now, you're a loser. Like, do you remember the good old times when it was really easy to grow? How many people remember those times? The rest of you don't remember those times? What is wrong with you? That was an easy one. And so, you know, the good news is I do believe it's possible to grow regardless. The bad news is those times are gone and probably never coming back. Like, if you study history, you study philosophy, you study macroeconomics, they were just a confluence of things that happened to us. So it doesn't mean that we can't grow. It just means it'll never be that easy, in my opinion, again. And the easy part is the piece that I want to hone in on today, which is when you ask anyone, do they work hard? It could be an employee at a fast food restaurant, or it could be a business owner sitting in the room. We all go home at the end of the day with this feeling of purpose and progress, and we want to say we did a good deed, a good job. And if you go back to the greatest generation, the World War II generation in our country, you know, it was founded on these principles of Main Street and do the right thing and work really hard. Well, Where were those values in place over the last 10 to 15 years? Like, it was go get a job at a .com, take some stock, and cash out early. It was start a business. It doesn't need to make money. It just needs to be a good idea. I mean, we still have trail off of that concept and that effect in this country. In fact, I believe it still happens even in the small to mid-sized business place. So I'm here because over the last 10 plus years, I've gone across the country. We've worked with more than 400 companies. And yes, it's about sales. It's about leadership. It's about culture. It's about growth. But to me, it's about even more detail than that. It's about the conversation you should have with the person sitting to the left and to the right of you, which I will give you a chance to do today, believe it or not. And that conversation should be different than the conversation you've been having. I will guarantee it. Because what I learned in business, my very first company was a little painting company. So I was in college. I needed money for school. And how many of you have seen those little student painting franchises where they teach those kids how to run their own business and they let them go out, they screw up your house, it's a total disaster. You wish you would have called the real contractor, which is saying something for any of the contractors in the room. No, I love you. So the first time that I started this little company, I went out, I hired a bunch of buddies, and I would knock on these doors of the people that I was supposed to be painting the houses to, and I was a really shy kid, and I'd knock on the door and I'd say, hi, my name's Joe. I'm running a small business this year. We paint, and it's really neat, and I need money for school, and but we give free estimates. Would you let me give you a free estimate, please? And I got my first lesson in marketing, which was about 1 out of 30 people said yes. And so you don't have to be a contracting business. You don't even have to be a salesperson. Every single person in here, how many of you consider yourself an advocate and a good citizen for your organization? Good. So we'll come back to that in a second. So my first year running my business, it wasn't so successful. I didn't make a lot of money. It wasn't really fun. When I went back to college, I had a bunch of jobs, and I said, gosh, I'll never do that again. But the guy who helped me get involved in a business said, I'm telling you, you got to come back for a second summer. I think you need to really you need to be who you are. Like, you're one of the rare people that we have in this program that are from this area. You're going to a great school. You want to be an entrepreneur when you get older. You know, you come from this blue-collar background. Your father's this gritty guy. Your mom was this aspiring actress. Like, you need to come from the heart. So I said, all right, I'll give it a shot. So second year, I knock on the door, and I said, hi, my name is Joe. Listen, I started a company putting college kids back to work. I want to teach college kids the value of a hard day's work for an honest day's wage. I think we need to get back to those values and these young people. I think we're entitled. I think we're snot-nosed brats. I don't think we're working hard enough, and my little business is going to help these kids get the right values. By the way, we paint some houses, and if you have any painting needs around the house, let me know, but we'd love to give you a free estimate. How many people you think said yes to that pitch? And so a lot more. And so I even took it one step further. The third year, we went from 5 people to 150 people full-time worked for me when I was 22 years old because this was the pitch. The third year it was, hi, my name is Joe. I built a business and I'm teaching other people how to run a company based on the values that made this country great. Based on the values of not only trying to provide a unique value to the marketplace, but treating their employees like their clients and their clients like employees. I believe with all these companies that are starting all over the world right now because of technology and the internet, if we can employ an army of entrepreneurs with the right value set, we can really do some amazing things in this country. By the way, it's a painting business. We happen to do some light construction. We'll do your deck too. Do you have any needs where we could give you a free estimate? That was the pitch. And so we went from 1 out of 30 people saying yes to close to 10 out of 30 people saying yes. Just by elevating the pitch. Elevating the pitch. And so when I hear people talk about what they do, there's a famous video on TED.com by a guy named Simon Sinek, and he's made it this kind of a famous thing that it's not what you do, it's why you do it. But I think it goes deeper than just your business. It's like you've really got to get to the heart of why you do what you do. I could bore you today and tell you about how unbelievably hard it was to write a book because I got a 400 on my verbal on my SAT. I could tell you that there's 35,000 books are published every single year on my topic. How did we get to number 1? I'll give you a little snippet about that in a second. But to me, what I want you to leave with is a sense of you've got to get a little deeper about why you're doing what you're doing. I'm going to put you through an exercise, Mike, with your permission, because I want you guys to actually leave with an experience and an exercise that you can take back to your company, but frankly, you can take back and you can do this on your own. But this why thing is important. My dad taught me so many great things. My mom taught me so many great things. But what they ended up really teaching me was this sense of purpose. And when I was growing up, it was like in the Shirley MacLaine book. And some people know what I'm talking about, right? My mom would like make me read these weird things in 2nd and 3rd grade. So it was very odd upbringing if you want to think of it that way. But now, it's not just this crazy spiritual thing. It's actually neuroscience. Neuroscience says that when we're on purpose and when we're doing things not for us, like I didn't knock on the door and say, would you like to, pay my way through college? But when I knocked on the door and said, will you be part of my cause to change the way business is played? Will you be part of my cause to create an army of entrepreneurs with the right value set? Do you see the difference? Like you've got to invite people to be part of your cause. And so how I know this works is it didn't just work in my painting business. I took it to other businesses. I took it to a manufacturing company that said, gosh, why don't we revitalize American manufacturing? And the company went from about 30 million to 40 million. Then I took it to a company that worked with hospitals and said, instead of saying what you do, why don't we say we want to improve patient safety across the board? Well, they grew by 25%. And then I took it to other organizations. And then I took it to EntreQuest. I said, look, sales training is great. Helping you work with your organization is great. But I got to tell you, 50% of this nation's economy is small business. 2/3 of the net new job creators, small business. When you look at the way small business is treated from Washington, when you look at the way small business is marginalized in the media, like when you watch CNN later today, they're still going to talk about Malaysia. They're going to talk about Chris Pine and Gwyneth Paltrow. They're going to talk about what Google had for lunch. They're going to talk about the Facebook acquisition. But they're not going to talk about the people sitting in this room. And the people sitting in this room, in my humble opinion, are the leaders. You're the everyday heroes. I mean, minus the teachers, the firefighters, the EMS, the nurses. You all are the unsung, at risk, at promise, undervalued underdogs to me in the country. Now with that little title from Joe comes a great deal of responsibility. Because what it means is we can't treat every single day, every day has 18,640 seconds in it. 18,640 seconds in it. We get to spend those 18,640 seconds every single day. In fact, it's like a check that you have to spend every single day. Now, what we also know is that check doesn't necessarily come every day. And so where I get a lot of my messaging from is that I've had a lot of death in my family. My mom passed when I was young. I probably went to 23 funerals by the time I was 23. And not that like I've got this black cloud, although my wife sometimes wonders that there's a weird occurrence to people around me. So you may want to keep your distance today. But the point of it is I think it is, we all know this, that someone who's gone through something horrible or challenging, that life is short. And this whole adage of you go to work from 9 to 5, then you go home and you're a different person, or you go home and you've got your personal life and your professional life and they're separate. And I'm here to tell you that they're not. I'm here to tell you that when you find your core purpose, not your passion. See, sometimes people mix what you're passionate about and what your purpose is. And so to me, this whole notion of you got to find what you're passionate about. No, I think you need to find who you love to work with and who you love to serve, and is that consistent with your purpose? And I think the best way to figure that out is by answering the question of why. So what I'm going to ask you guys to do in a second is on the tables, you guys have the little agenda for today. How many people do not have a pen here? Awesome. Fusion Dental, I'm feeling you, right? This has all been planned, as you can see. So what I'm going to ask you guys to do in a second is I want you to write down the 25 reasons why you do what you do. But before you do that, before you get all stressed out about having to go around the room in front of the mic and the camera doing this on a live feed TV, which we won't have time to do today, Mike, but if we did, I'm literally going to give you about 4 or 5 minutes to go through this. I'm going to tell you that this exercise is something I've put thousands of people through, and I'm not trying to impress you. I'm trying to press upon you that it works. If you can elevate your pitch, if you can find a greater purpose, it's not just about you leading more effectively. It's about if you're a restaurant and you've got your servers that are going out waiting on people on a daily basis. How many people have ever been in a restaurant where You loved the food but hated the service and didn't go back. Yeah. So here you have restaurants that spend so much time on their food but not enough time on their service. They don't get that the frontline staff, the flight attendant, the bank teller, they're the salespeople in our economy today. They're the people that can make the most impact to your customer service, your client experience. And if you can inspire them to be more, to do more, to give more, to challenge themselves, to spend 1 more minute with your customer. How many times have you had a waiter or waitress come by and say, I'm so excited you're here today. What would be most important about your dining experience? Now, just so you know, we had a call center ask that question every single time the phone rang. It was a $20 million company, and in 120 days, they grew their top customers by 367% by asking them that question to start the call. What would be most important to you about today's call? Because what does that do if you ask that question? What does it imply? Some participation would be good here. That you care. What else? That you're looking out for their interest. What else? It's all about you. It's about you. How many people love to be treated like a computer? How many people love to be treated like you're talking to someone who's like reading a script? Right, exactly. So it's not about the words per se. It's about getting back to the thing that actually makes business work. It's an authenticity. The more honest you are, the more successful you'll be. So we'll come to that in a second. So 25 reasons why. What I want you to do is I want you to think about why do you do what you do. Now, real quick, I'll share with you a story where I put a group of kids at my old high school through this exercise 10 plus years ago. And so if you've read the book, you know the story. And I tell this story often because I think it's an awesome story. I could tell you about painting. I could tell you about other businesses that have gone through this. But I think this story really sums it up best. So 10 plus years ago, I was working with a group. We started a foundation helping high school kids that were at risk in Baltimore, partnering with like a for-profit company. So we got Constellation, Under Armour, all these great companies involved that would follow these kids from the 9th grade to the 12th grade. But in order to open things up in the 9th grade, like when you put a bunch of what is basically like minority kids with white people sitting in these companies, like there's a trust issue. And so what we did is we tried to work on that trust issue by opening things up and making people vulnerable. So I'd ask the kids, what do you want to be when you get older? And so at my high school, it's okay. Like when I'd ask these young kids what they want to be when they get older, what do you think they'd say? A rapper. What else? An athlete. Right. So an athlete, rock star, rapper. Well, in this particular meeting, there was a kid in the back and he said, Mr. Joe, I want to be a chef. And I was like, yes, we have one. And so I said, great. So why don't you tell me why you want to be a chef? And so the first 10 answers he gave me, what do you think he'd say? A kid who, by the way, these kids go to school hungry. You know, they don't have clothes like you and I do. What do you think he said? The first 10 reasons, why do you want to be a chef?
Feed others.
No, feed him. He wanted money. What does money get you when you're 16 as a boy? Girls. Isn't that right, ladies? Doesn't it get you? No, we're still not getting this message. We think we understand and we don't, but it starts young, at least understand the whole misconception of that. So money and girls and cars and clothes and things, right? His first 10 were focused on him. But then about like a half hour later, believe it or not, it took about a half hour, I said, well, we're like at number 12 and number 13. I said, well, why? Why is this so important to you? And Dwayne looked at me and he said, well, because I like to make things. I like to serve others. I like to be creative. So now we're like getting somewhere. So this went on for like an hour, by the way. It was very like grueling exercise, especially for him, because he just wants this thing to be over. But I'll never forget when he got to number 23, he looked at me and he said, I got it. I want to be a chef because I want to pay back my grandmother who raised me and my brothers and sisters. I want to set a good example for kids in my community because there's not a lot of good examples. Like, what if we showed them that after high school you could go do something great and make good decisions? And someone could be that from my grandmother who sacrificed so much for us as she's raised us all on her own. Now, that was an answer coming from a 16-year-old kid. And guess what he is today? It's the same joke. No, he's a cop. No, he's a chef. Of course he's a chef. Why would he be a cop? That has no bearing on the story. You guys are not paying attention to the story. Pay attention to the story, please. So here's what I want you to do. Will you indulge me? So instead of hearing me tell funny stories or not funny stories, instead of me talking about some things that you could do, why don't you do something today with me? So what I'd ask you to do is let's take just a couple minutes. I know we have a couple minutes of time here. I want you to jot down stream of consciousness, journal it. Don't laugh. Don't think about your neighbor. Just write. I'm not going to make you share it. Why do you do what you do? List out 25 by number and just start writing. Like, why do you do what you do? Go. It's not. So here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to take a look at that list, please, for a second. I just want you to scan it. And as you're scanning it, I want you to circle the one that you think for today, for today's lunch in March, before it gets nice and warm. Circle the one that you think is most resonant to you today. The one that's most important to you today. Some people are getting really irritated. It's fine. Now, here's what I want you to do. I want you to turn to the person sitting to the left or right of you. I want you to introduce yourself again, and I want you to tell them why you do what you do, and let's see what happens. Go. You have 1 minute, by the way. Quickly, go. Quickly, because we're going to run out of time. What did you notice about those conversations? Someone? Anyone? Sincerity. Yes, ma'am. Right. How'd that feel to actually just talk to someone today? Right. Someone else? Yes, sir.
We were both focused on doing what we do for other people.
Wow, like first common connection about contributing. We all, by the way, I don't have time to get into this, you're just going to have to take a leap of faith with me. Every single person on this planet has a contribution gene, which means it's in our brains to want to give back. We're all on a spectrum. Some of us are a little bit more than others. But the common connection that we all have, and if you don't believe me, think about what happened to this country after 9/11. People ran to ground zero, okay? People were searching for a way to contribute. Sometimes it happens in crisis, and I think we're in our own crisis, if you will, from a country and from a business standpoint. So, interesting observation. One more. Yes, sir. Vulnerable, right? So you heard this concept, when we go in and we do a lot with strategic growth and leadership with companies, I have a background that would tell me that, because I didn't work in corporate America, I don't have an MBA, I didn't go to a private school, and I've never worked in consulting. This is all I've ever done. My definition of leadership is a little different than some. And that idea of being vulnerable and just being who you are. So people have asked a lot, which is, the question, and Christine, it's been a while since we've seen each other. People say, Joe, your writing is okay. We love your methodology. We love your passion, your purpose. How the hell did you write a #1 best-selling book? It's a very fair question, by the way. We did beat 50 Shades of Grey, if anybody's curious, last year. So that's true, and I said that at the Pink Fling because, to be honest, of all the things I'm really excited about, that was a really tough thing to beat. And we did. We actually kicked its butt for only 3 days, but it was 3 days, so it still mattered for me. But people ask me all the time, like, how did we do it? And let's go back to the way I started with my little painting business. Let's go back to what EntreQuest stands for. Read what the book talks about. It's about creating an army of entrepreneurs that are going to grow regardless of their size, regardless of their industry, regardless of the economy, and despite the government. It was the message. It was that in 2013 and sequestration and budget talks and the country's debt and the lack of job growth in the way that we'd want to see it, people were ready for that message. It wasn't that we came out with anything that was necessarily the most groundbreaking, never been said before. And it's not that I'm a master marketer. What I'll tell you is the businesses that seem to do well, like Zappos and Google and Southwest in their heyday, and Starbucks to some degree, and Chick-fil-A, and your local restaurant or your local landscaper that you really love, the common thing that they all have is they're real. And they know it. And they're not afraid to say it. They're not afraid to talk about it. And they're not afraid to ask their employees to live it. So normally when I have a little bit more time, I get into this whole, okay, So you've got your pitch, and in the book, Grow Regardless, this is your story. This is the beginning of how to mix your vision, your values, your purpose into a story for you to talk about who you are. I didn't say EntreQuest is a sales leadership training, talent act. We recruit, we staff, we strategic facilitate, we speak, we workshop, we online programs, really cool guy. Nobody cares about that. What I told you, and I mean it sincerely, is I have friends that died. I had friends that are in jail. I have friends that are not doing so well because my dad never lost his job. That was the difference. My dad has worked for the same company for the last 37 years. He started sweeping warehouse floors, and today he's the partner in a large, large company. The only non-college grad, by the way, in that company doing that. And so my example, I didn't really have a choice, right? My choice was to be half the dad he was to me. My choice was to be half the worker he was, and to stop looking for easy, which was what this country has been doing, in my humble opinion, for the last 10 plus years. Every small business, especially the good ones, know this. It's a daily commitment to greatness. So you can get your mindset straight like this, but the question is, how do you get your team? Well, the first and foremost, you've got to tell them why you stand, or what you stand for, and why you stand for it. And if they don't match it, it's time to help them find another gig. Big one to end on, isn't it? Gallup just released a poll. 180 million people across the world filled out a survey who work somewhere. 180 million people filled it out, and it said 13% are engaged in the workforce. You want to know how to bring this economy back? Very simple. Get your people. How many people here would love to hire 10 people right now if you had the money? Okay, great. So if you have the money, go do that. If you don't, listen to the next 38 seconds. Because the next 38 seconds are, how do you actually do something about your talent? How do you get them to proverbially grow regardless? How do you look at that trend and say, if 13% of the entire workforce, and let's just assume for a second it was a good survey. Last year it was about 17 or 18%. It's actually going down, 13% engagement rate, which tells me really, really not that people are bad or lazy, but that people either need to be re-engaged or gone in a different direction in terms of what they do. And you as a small business should help them figure that out. So the message today isn't to leave here and go fire people. That's not it. To be clear, because I'm on camera and I don't want the bad PR. But I will say unequivocally, go get clear on who you are, what you stand for, and why you exist. Reset with your team, which we talk about in the book. Have that conversation, and if people aren't fitting your values, then yes, the decision has been made. And if you want to grow regardless in these times, I think that's what it takes. You know, recently, 2 weeks ago, just to wrap on this point, I was asked to go to the White House. Really cool thing. So last year I was asked to go, but the Benghazi attacks happened, and I was like, oh, sure, here's another excuse, right? Like, here's my time to go, and you guys, attack our thing as a whole thing, right? So two or 3 weeks ago, I get a chance to go there to give voice to this White House Business Council, which I got to tell you, I'm a fierce independent, and I don't mind telling you that. So if that offends you, sorry, get over it. But I'm a fierce independent. I think very, independently, if you will, about a lot of different issues. So when I said despite the government, you could paint a picture that it means I'm maybe on a righter side of that equation, and I am at times. But I went there, and I want to be honest with you, with a huge perception that I was going to go meet, the Undersecretary of Labor who'd been there forever. I was going to go meet the Undersecretary of Commerce who had been a government employee forever. I was going to go meet the people ahead of the SBA who had been doing it forever. And that's actually not what I met. So we always want to make a villain, like when we've created DC as the villain, and I've been a part of that, no doubt. But what I met was actually all of the people that were in those positions were appointed from the private sector. Interesting. And by the way, they weren't all perfect. I didn't love everything they had to say, but they at least were some of us sitting in the room. And then I had the other side of the room, which were all the entrepreneurs, about 24 of us or so. And I got to tell you, some of my fellow entrepreneurs are out of their minds in terms of what they think the government should be doing, shouldn't be doing. I mean, one guy literally wanted Apple to give up $50 billion of its cash in its checking account to give it out to all of its employees that are non-executives. I mean, that was a true statement that was said. And it dawned on me, and this is the thought I'll leave you with. It's not the government, it's not big business, it's not even your competitors. I believe it's a mindset. And the mindset is simple. It's the people who want to grow regardless, and the companies who want to grow regardless, and it's the people who want to make 1,000 excuses of why it's not possible. That's the villain. And by the way, we're all victim to it. We've all had bad days. I mean, it's not that we're perfect, but what I would implore you to do in your business as a leader, what's really neat about my story is that my dad, works for this same guy for 37 years, and, my stars were changed the second that I got into Johns Hopkins University. And so Johns Hopkins is a great school, but what it did was it opened my eyes up to a worldly view, to people that were like my buddy graduated number 2 in his class from Harvard Medical School. I mean, these guys were like entirely too smart for me. But what it did is it opened me up to a world that it gave me hope, it gave me possibility, it gave me inspiration. But what people can never put together, which is how does a kid with 1,000 on his SAT that goes to the worst school in the state of Maryland, that yes, he was a good football player, but let's be honest, I'm still 5'8". And yes, Hopkins does have a football team, but they're not really hard recruiting for me. Why? How did I get in? And I tell people this story all the time. It just happens to be that my dad works for a guy that maybe went to Hopkins, that maybe was an All-American. And I can tell you that that's not how Hopkins makes their decisions. But I can tell you this, that the guy he's worked for has provided an amazing opportunity for my family for the last 37 years. And for the people that are in this room that employ people, you're doing that same thing. You don't know it, but there's like a little Joey, as my family calls me, that's working in your business, that's being like paid, and the family has food on their table today, and they pay their mortgages, and they go home, and based on the environment you've created, they take that back with them to either be a better mom, a better dad, a better husband, a better wife, or just a better person. So the amount of weight that we have as entrepreneurs is tremendous on us. I'm not meaning to make it more than it is. But you never know who you're employing. You never know the stars that you can change. And I have a lot to be grateful for. My dad, his employer, and really the way my life has turned out, because my dad decided to grow regardless, because he decided to be a hardworking guy who didn't complain about it. And that's what I'm imploring you guys to be, which is hardworking and people with the mindset of let's grow regardless. So with that, thank you very much.
128.
You're very good, very good. How about a round of applause? Nice job here, right? Now, before we get into the drawing, Joe, I've got my own copy of your book, and I'd like to have you sign this for me. If you'd inscribe it to Mike.
Dearest friend.
My dearest friend. You have inspired me.
How do you
to
spell
write-
inspired?
to write all these books.
Can I say one last thing?
Yeah.
If you guys like that 25 Reasons Why exercise, on our website there is a downloadable form. Go check it out. It's the easiest thing to take back to your company today if you want to do it. And so give it a shot.
And your chamber is the greatest. You're a good man, sir.
Thank you.
All right, now we're going to do a little drawing here. If you'd like
You're gonna
to,
make me the jerk?
you're the guy here. You got to kind of really work your way in there.
All right.
We've got 9 copies of this book autographed. Not quite as personalized as mine, of course.
Gail Carroll, Shipley's Diamonds and
Oh
Fine
yeah,
Jewelry.
where's Gail? Thank you.
All right. Jeffrey Slight from Elite Tents and Events.
Oh yeah. Of course, Jeffrey had about 12 cards in there.
Jason Stamball from, yeah, Jason. Yeah. Trying to get to the back of the room here, folks, sorry. Kelly Heck from Info Pathways.
Back of the room.
I'm clairvoyant.
She's really very good.
Yes. All right. Keeping the show moving here. How about, I feel like the price is right.
There you go.
Cindy Bem, Take Shape for Life, Medifast.
She's my coach.
Nice.
She's my coach.
She's everybody's
She
coach.
obviously has her hands full. All right. Janice Kispert, because of him. Janice Kispert. Janice Kispert. All right.
When he is going to.
Let's see here. John Wheatman, Carroll County. Oh, look at John. Something about this table. Sorry about this front table here. It's not the way it was supposed to work. All right, Brenda Meadows, the Shepherd staff.
Oh, yeah. This last copy we're going to auction off. The bidding starts at $200. All right, it doesn't. Or a box of Cuban cigars.
Sandy Sipes, Target Community and Education Services.
Thank you so much. Joe, we're all kind of wondering, when are you going to run for like political office? Never. All right. Well, listen, Joe. Thanks again. This was great having you here. Thanks again to our sponsors. We want to thank The Path. We want to thank Fusion Dental. How about a round of applause for them? CMC for the wonderful job they always do for us. Thank you guys. I know we're running late, but we are taking applications now for Leadership Carroll, class of 2015. That will fill up, so if you're interested, get a hold of me. We have lots of spaces because I haven't called all the people that normally come. So please give me a call. We'd love to get you involved in Leadership Carroll. And other than that, thank you. You've been a wonderful audience, and the meeting is adjourned. Drive safely.